Boom! Hey YouTubers, Juggernaut here. Welcome to the Juggernaut channel. I'm excited to bring you this next video series that we're doing. As some of you may know, I have done a couple live streams and a few videos on the Ultraseedbox. I enjoy the service. I use Ultraseedbox with my Plex media server. So I have been asked to do a tutorial video series on the Ultraseedbox, the Plex media server, and the applications that we can use on the Ultraseedbox. So this is the first installment. It is a lengthy video, I must tell you. The reason being is I wanted you, the users, at the end of this video to have a fully functional Plex media server on your Ultraseedbox. It will be set that you can look for movies and TV content. The following videos that we will be doing are going to show the install and configuration of additional programs that can add to the functionality of that of the Plex media server. Again, it is a lengthy video. I hope you enjoy it. I will be putting bookmarks in the description that will show the different sections at the beginning, so you can skip forward if you already have done some of them or you just want to move ahead. So again, thank you, and I hope you enjoy this series. I know I will. All right, as mentioned, we are doing this Ultraseedbox series based on that you are installing and configuring a Plex media server. So right off the bat, when you have purchased your Ultraseedbox package and you have signed in and accessed your control panel, it will look just like this. And in the slot information, you can see where you have your server information, disk information, and your traffic information. And it'll give you some summary of some details in there. On this page, I'd like to point out and have you keep mindset of this address right here, which we will make use of further in our configuration. We'll move on to the access details. The access details will give you the information needed to access your Seedbox via FTP, HTTP proxy access, or SSH access. So you can refer to these this tab and this information at any time when you need it. At this point, this is where I recommend that you go and click on change password in each one of these. And if you have set a password, you can just double check it by clicking the icon. But again, I recommend that you click change password, set your new password with confirming it on all three of these, which I've already done. Another suggestion that I would like to make is that do not make this password for these access points the same password that you use to log into your Ultraseedbox account, which gives you access to your control panel. So after you have done that, we can move on to applications, which this being a new setup, you'll see that it's blank. We're going to move into installers. Now with installers, we are going to be installing what is base needed to have a Plex media server up and running with the ability to search for, download, and categorize movies and TV shows. Once we move on into the series, we'll be adding more applications in order to do more and add more functionality to your Plex media server. So again, for this, we need to install Jackett, which Jackett is basically the liaison jump between our program between your indexers and your Plex media server. Then once we move down, we're going to need, of course, Plex media server. This, when we press install, it is going to send us or give us a link that we can click on to claim our Plex. So it will forward us to a website to give us our claim code. Just click copy to clipboard. I just exit out and then I paste it into here. And while that's installing, I move down because we are also going to need Radarr, Sonarr, and a download client, which we will be using transmission. Now when transmission sends up this pop-up, the password that you're going to use is the password that you set in those three categories on the access panel. And let's go ahead and do that. And while the applications are installing, you'll get a little confirmation in the bottom right hand corner, or you can go into the application section tab again and they will show up here as they install. So right now we have Jackett, Radarr, Sonarr, so we're just waiting for transmission and then the Plex media server. And the Plex media server, while it is doing its installing onto the server itself, it is creating the media folders for TV shows, movies, and music onto your Ultraseedbox. And I will show you those once we go into configuring the different aspects of these applications. So once the Plex media server has installed right here, we will move on to setting up each individual section in order to give you a functioning Plex media server. Moving on to configuration of the applications, I always like to start with Jackett. And just to refresh, Jackett is a proxy server. I like to call it the liaison application between Radarr and Sonarr, which you use those programs in the Plex environment to search for your content. And this needs to negotiate or talk to the indexers, and that's what Jackett does. So as you can see in the application section, we have Jackett. It gives a description. You can click on the actions where you have restart, stop, repair, uninstall. What we want to do is we want to go into show info. If you wish, you can click into the help and find out more information about it, how to install from shell and to upgrade from shell if you need to, but we can do that through the interface here. What we want to do is we want to connect. So once we see that it's connected, there's a ton of information here. You'll first off notice the API key at the top. This changes with the Jackett install. So just to make a note for those who are watching, is I will be uninstalling Jackett after this install, so the API key will be negated. Just to be on the safe side. And you can take a look at the information of adding Jackett indexers to Sonarr Radarr, to Couch Potato, to our RSS clients, their feeds. There is a Jackett configuration which I have not had to make any adjustments to this at all. The only thing that I have ever done, and we can dwell in it deeper if somebody has a question, is for the base usage for Jackett is to just add indexer. This will give an extensive list of private, semi-private, and public indexers. Now it is quite a long list, but the process is still the same. With private indexers, you will need a invite, and some of them require, when you go to add them to Jackett, that there are steps, either username or password or other specific steps to get the information in order to have it at that index added. So for this demo purposes, of course, we are going to use the quick and easy public indexers, and we're just going to add a couple just to show what needs to be done. We'll add 1337X, so we just add it. And once it adds, you'll see that it's successfully configured, so it just shows up here. Then we want to go back and scroll back down. I'm just going to quickly go down to the public, and just another couple familiar, like ETTV, which has movies, audio, PCTV, books. So we want to add, going to add that. And again, we're going to add one more. Let's just scroll down. Let's see. I want to find one that has the for TV, movies and TV that we have, and as you can see, there are quite a few to go through. So I just want Easy TV for TV shows. We want to add that. So just to explain the reason why that I tend to suggest to configure Jackett first, or add the indexers to Jackett first, is when we get to the point that we're going to be doing the configuration in Sonarr and Radarr, is there's a section in there which we'll get to of where you add the indexers. And those indexers that we add, besides these three, there are some built into the applications themselves. But when we go to add them, we need information from here, from Jackett. So just to be prepared, I like to do these first. So now that we've added a couple public indexers, we can move on to doing the configuration on Sonarr and Radarr. All right, now that we have finished configuring Jackett, it is recommended that we leave the tab open because we will have to return to reference some items from Jackett while we're setting up Sonarr and Radarr. That being said, let's head back to the control panel and we will scroll down to Radarr, and if it is not already shown, you just hit show info, and we want to connect to Radarr. So with Radarr opening for the first time, you can see that we have the categories up top. We'll go through what we need to. Right now you can see that there are some links here for a setup guide, some common problems, some FAQ. You can check those out at your leisure. Just look into the system, and it's giving us 3 warnings, letting us know that there's no indexers available, and no RSS sync feed for Radarr, and no download client, because we haven't set them yet. So let's go ahead and move into settings. Now in settings, over here you can see where it says advanced settings. I like to click it to show the advanced settings. I always like to press save as well, just in case. It's a personal thing. And we'll start off by movie naming. We do want to rename movies, so we go ahead and press yes. This is where you decide on your own what you like to do. It's a personal preference of how you want your movie to be displayed, and the folder to be displayed. You can add and subtract at what you'd like to do and how it will show up down here with the example. You can use the plus to add different values in order to show up in here. What I like to do is, my preference is for the movie example, is I just like to have the movie title. So I just move to delete that from this line, and you can see by the example that's what will show up here. The movie folder format is I keep it the same because I do like to see the movie title and the release year. Then if we move down to folders, in here we leave it set as no to create empty folders, no to automatic rename folders, and the movie path is yes, so we leave that. And then we scroll down to importing. Here skip free space, no. Use the hard links instead of copy, yes. And import extra files, we change this to yes. And it will automatically display the SRT, which is the subtitles file. If it is included with the download, we want to import that with it. Then we want to move down to file management, and in file management we do want to ignore deleted movies. Other than that, we do not change any of these. The download properties, analyze video files, and so on. We get into the permissions, and the permissions, we do not change anything in here. So for the first section, this is all good. We can go ahead and press the arrow key. Again, I like to press save. Then we can move on to profiles. Now profiles is going to take a little bit of explanation. These are different preset categories that you wish to have Radarr, when looking or when queried for content that you're looking for. They have to fall into the specific guidelines that you set up in the profiles. That being said, there are these ones that are preset for you. I like to go into any, and when I go into any, I just leave it same as it is, and I choose my cutoff to be Blu-ray 1080p. So anything above Blu-ray 1080p I don't want. I'm not looking for 4K or anything like that. And again, this is your personal preference, but the cutoff is the uppermost resolution that you want. And then in the quality section, you want to dismiss or uncheck everything above and below the thresholds that you want. So here we started like with Blu-ray 1080p. Anything above Blu-ray 1080p, I do not want, so I get rid of all of these. So by unchecking them, these files will not be looked at or considered for download. I also do not want anything below 720, and again, it's personal preference. I do make an exception for one, is the DVD screeners. I sometimes are impatient and like to take a look at those. Once that is set, we just press save. And as you can see, it changed to the display here to reflect the changes that you made. So this is where, again, myself, I delete these pre-configured sections. And you'll see why later on when we go to set or look for content. It actually gives you the option of what profile do you want these to search, use as the search criteria or the thresholds, and it will give you a choice of all of these. And me, because I've done it in the any, I just want to choose that one. So I just go ahead and go through and scroll down to the bottom, delete them, and we'll do that real quick. And again, this is a personal preference. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And if there's anything that you erase or you want to make changes, you can click on the category that you have been working in. Example is any. Or if you want to recreate one of these, you can just press the plus and go ahead and do that. So other than that, there's nothing else in here that needs to be set. Again, I just press save and we move on over to quality. Now quality is where we're going to be setting the size limits on the quality settings that we did in the profiles. So in here we did set that I want to have DVD screener. So what I like to do, and again, this is up to you, and you can learn by trial and error, or you can just think about the different types of movies that you previously downloaded or file sizes, and you want within this range, that's where the application will consider it for to add to the downloader. So DVD screener, within here I usually just set everything as close as possible to 4 gigs. I'm not using any of these. I start at the HD 720 and I do the same thing, close to 4 as possible. Web download, same thing. The one thing that I do take a look at is because with previous experience, Blu-ray has always been a little bit more in file size. So for the Blu-ray 720, I tend to go to as close to 6. And then right back to the 4s for the rest until we get to the Blu-ray 1080p, and that one I go again a little bit bigger size because this is a 1080, but Blu-ray I go as close as I can to 8. So those that we have used in the quality tab, that we enabled them to be the threshold, that's where I adjusted these sizes. And once again, this one is done, so we just press the back up to the top or scroll. I just press again save. Custom formats, I do not use custom formats in here, but you can if you choose to explore these options in here of setting up custom formats to suit some of your automation needs, like if you're wanting to download some simple subs or files that have hard-coded subs, to include them or not include them. Internal releases, there's different choices and configurations within them. If anybody wishes to go through those, then you can leave a comment in the description of the video, and we can do another video or go through it once again when we do our live stream weekly, to go through any issues and questions or concerns in regards to the Ultraseedbox series. So let's move on to indexers. Now this is where we leave the Jackett tab open because we need to reference some information from there. So when we're in here, the indexers, right off the bat, I like to use, and we add RARBG, which is a very useful and very popular public tracker that is a built-in option into Sonarr and Radarr. So we go ahead and click that to add it, and we just press test. The test succeeded, so we go ahead and save it. Now we're going to be adding the trackers that indexers, I mean, that we put into here, and we only use the 3 for this purpose. You may have more public ones, and you may have included private ones or semi-private. Before I go to do all these, I like to just do a quick test all, because sometimes the public ones either maintenance, or there are issues, or servers down and it may fail. And I would like to point out that even though that they have passed in here, this means that the Jackett application can reach them. But when we go to add it to the Sonarr and Radarr, if it does fail, we have to come back at another time and try to add it, because it is actually trying to attach to it, and sometimes they do fail. So the first one I'm going to be adding is 1337X. When we go to add, we need to pick a category, and as you can see, we can do the RSS feed, Torsnab, or the potato feed. We are going to be using for this presentation, a tutorial is going to be Torsnab, so we just go ahead and click the Torsnab feed, and we can click here, and we want to name it, and it's the 1337X. That copy and paste that we did for the Torsnab feed goes in the URL, and then we want to head back to Jackett, because it is going to ask us for our API key. So we can do a Control-C and a Control-V, or right-click, copy, right-click, paste with the mouse, and we go and put it in the API key. And we can scroll down. You can make any changes in here. If you wish to know what they're for, just hover over the question mark, like different categories and anime categories, additional parameters. I never made any choices in here. And again, we can go through these if requested. Minimum seeders, I like to put 1. We go ahead and click test. Again, we get the acknowledgement, press save. And my mouse, lovely mouse to work with. So we're going to be doing ETTV. So again, we do the same steps. I'm doing these a little bit faster, as you would have seen how to do it. You can pause the video and rewind it if need be. Same thing with these, making any changes, just go ahead and press test. This one also succeeded, so we want to click save. And we are going to be adding the EasyTV. So again, copy the Torsnab feed, and we want to hit the big old plus. Torsnab category, and this one is the EasyTV, and URL. And the API key. Alright, so let's give this a test. And here's a prime example. This trying to attach to EasyTV has failed. So double checking, we have everything in here, the URL, the API key, and if we go ahead and press test again and it has failed, then we cannot add it at this time. We would have to come back and add it. So I just go ahead and press cancel, and this is where if we had more indexers, we would add them following the same steps. If we're using any RSS feeds, we can use the directions that are in down here for adding Jackett indexers to RSS clients, and so forth. All right, so that being said, the indexers, we are done there, so just go ahead and click save. We're going to add the download client. So the download client is just a plus. There are a number of download clients that you can include. For this demo purposes, we were using transmission, so we just go ahead and click transmission and label it. So we're going to need information here like the local host, the port, the URL base, and things like that. So we're going to go back to our control panel. We're going to go transmission to where it shows info, and when we're going to info, what we want to do is we want to highlight the host name under the remote client access. And we want to add that to the local host. And the port we're going to need. The URL base we can leave as is for transmission. The username, so the username that you have for that you set up in here for under the access, that's what we can put here. So the username and the password that goes with it. So the directory. Now, the category, I do not worry about the categories. The directory. So the directory is the home directory. And I mentioned at the beginning, when we're looking at the slot info, to be mindful of the home folder. So the home folder we can just grab from here. And we can add it into the directory. I do want to point out that we do not want to leave it as is like this, because this will, what happens is any files from transmission, what it will do is it will place those files to whatever this directory is, and we don't want it to sit just like on the root directory or the directory of the your server. So we just go ahead and add a /files with a /. So then it will place all files that are downloaded into a files folder, and that's where the other applications will find those and move them into the locations that need to be. All right, so everything that we have here is good. So then on this one here, I don't believe we need anything else for this. No. So then we can go ahead and press test. It succeeded, and press save. To be honest, that is it for what we need to configure in these for Radarr itself. But we can just quickly take a look. Lists, where you can add different types of lists in here. You know, from couch potato, Radarr lists. These are you add a track list for reference. You can authorize your track authentication to track the movies and TV shows that you are watching, so that can carry on to any other device that you're using that you use tracked. It'll reflect on there what you watched, so it's a broad spectrum of different media sources or media players. Connect in here, I don't make use of connections at all. I do not make use of metadata, as we already have some preset informational spots to grab the metadata information. General in here, again, do not make use of anything in here off the bat. Let's see, and UI again, I do not make any changes in here. If anybody is wanting to explore these last 5 categories in depth, we just make the request and we'll do a video on it and we'll go into them. But working on the premise that we just want a running Plex media server in order to do the video series on the Ultraseedbox, this is as far as we need to go within Radarr. So again, we press save. You can see that these warnings are still here. What you can do is just go ahead and click refresh. If refreshing the window itself and attach it to it still gives these warnings in here, then what I like to do is I will go back to my control panel. I will go to the applications, and under Radarr, we just go to actions, we just go restart. And this is going to restart the Radarr application. Sometimes it takes a few seconds to do that. We will get an acknowledgement at the bottom right hand corner, and then we will go back just to double check, make sure we're not missing anything, and to refresh that so we don't have any system warnings. And as you can see, the application was restarted. And then again here, I just like to click refresh, and you can see that the warnings are gone. So it did a reboot on here, and then everything is good. So that is setting up Radarr. Next, we are going to set up Sonarr. All right, now that we have finished Radarr, let's move on to Sonarr. And Sonarr, just like Radarr, is a application that is used with your Plex media server on the Ultraseedbox in order to search for TV series content. And again, based on the criteria that we configured during the configuration and setup of the application, it will search for and find within those boundaries, download and categorize it on your Ultraseedbox. So let's go ahead and move on into Sonarr. So again, if Sonarr show the info, we want to click connect. We will be moving relatively quickly through this, as it is about a lot of the same settings are done again, just like it was in Radarr, but not fast enough to lose anybody. But if need be, just pause the video and perform the configurations, and then move along with the tutorial. So again, you have your categories. You're gonna have the system warnings in here that we have nothing set. So let's jump into settings. And again, the advanced settings, we want to move the slide over to shown, personal preference again, press save, and we want to start with episode naming. So we do want to rename episodes. Now this, just like Radarr, is that you are able to configure and set how you want the content displayed. So how you want your episodes displayed, your single episode, and series, and your folders, and everything that you have right here for examples. So you can again erase and add the different values that you want to put in there. So you can go through these and set to your comfort level, or what you'd like to see displayed. Again, for myself, I just leave these as is. I do not change these for the TV series. And if you wish to pause the video and set these in order to move along with us at the same pace, please do. All right, so let's move down to folders. Now in folders, create empty folders, delete empty folders, no. You want to skip the free space check, no. Use hard links, yes. This is in, we want to again import extra files, so we want to set that to yes. So if there is an SRT, which is a these subtitles will be included. Then we move down to file management. In file management, we want to ignore deleted episodes. And again, in permissions, we do nothing here. So let's scroll back up, and we can press save. Move on over to profiles. Now profiles here is just the same as it was for Radarr. So we're going to move into here, and we can set the levels, or the criteria of any that we want. Now you'll see that in any, a lot of them are already set like this. Have this here. First thing I like to do is set the cutoff. Now the cutoff, I do want the web download 1080. I'm not looking at a Blu-ray 1080 for a TV show. Actually, no. Let's set that again to Blu-ray 1080. And we do not want anything that is below 720. In the movies, that would be something that we set, but for TV shows, there are going to be a lot of TV shows that are still in standard definition, or they may be in 480p, depends how old they are. So we leave these settings as is. So we're going to move on over to profiles, and just like Radarr, you'll see multiple different pre-configured settings for the type of filters or criteria that are needed or wanted for your content. So we're just going to jump into any. It is a little bit different with the TV as opposed to movies. Reason being is a lot of movies will have different resolution, higher levels, and that for the quality that they have. With TV shows, based on how old they are, you may only get lower resolutions. So we do a little bit of tweaking in here, as in leaving some of the default resolution settings as is in order for you to receive that content. So here again, what I do is I set the cutoff, and I set the cutoff to Blu-ray. I set it the highest that I'm going to get for Blu-ray 1080. I'm not looking for 4K TV shows for myself. And again, these settings right here, I do not change. Personal preference once again, but I have found older TV shows from my youth that are still only as standard definition and 480p, and if I was to uncheck these, they would not be considered. So again, we just jump out of here, press save. Again, another personal preference which gets mentioned a lot is I take the other pre-configured settings out. So I'll just do that quickly. And again, just press save, and we're going to move on over to quality. So in quality, here we go. This is where we set the file size that we wish to have our limits. So remember that we did go from standard definition up. These are TV shows, so these don't need to be as large, as they won't be that large files for the individual files. So I tend to set these the slider for the max file size as close to as I can for at 2 gig. So WebDL, and that is quite a bit. You'll find that a lot of them may not be that file size for the 480 SD. DVD, again, I choose to set this one as close to 2, but once we start jumping up to 720, I set that at actually 3, closest to 3, just give a little bit more leeway on the size because it is getting into a higher resolution. I did not choose, I believe I did not choose raw HD. I'll have to double check, which we can do. So I just jump back here, and we did not choose it. So easily enough, jump back in, download. We're going to set this again. So at 3, Blu-ray 720. And we will be stopping at the highest resolution that we put a check mark with, and our cutoff, which was Blu-ray 1080p. Let me again move on up. Let's move into indexers. Again, with indexers, the first one I'd like to add is the built-in default, which is the Radarr BG. Now this is where it gets a little bit different for configuration of seeding. And now seeding is when you download content, you leave that content in place in order that it can be shared with the community, which is called seeding. In here, the criteria I leave alone for maximum seeders to give me content, but the seed ratio is I tend to put 2, which means if I download one full series or TV show or content, that I leave it in place in order for it to be seeded fully 2 times, and then it will not seed anymore. So Radarr BG, so I just set that. I do not set the seed time or seed pack seed times. And once the test was successful, we go ahead and add it. And we are going to hit the plus sign, and this is where we head back to Jackett again. Now back to Jackett, we're going to be adding these 3. If you recall, in Radarr, we were not able to add Easy TV because at that time it was not either up and running, or there was maintenance, or there was any type of issue, which can happen with the public indexers. And we will go through all three of these again, and hopefully we can add them all. So we go ahead and click on the TorsNav feed for 1337, and these are TorsNav. And we just go through the steps again. And again, we need the API key. And once again, in here, we set the seed ratio. Now, I recommend that you set this to a minimum of 1. It is courtesy to set it at 2, but it is your preference. A lot of the indexers, being public and private ones, have, would prefer you to have more than 1, but you can set to 1. And some private trackers set their own ratio limits that you must adhere to, or you can be expelled. from the indexer itself. So I always set mine as 2. Let's go ahead and press test. It was successful, so we hit save. And once again, we are going to be going to the TorsNav feed. This one was ETTV. So if I am moving too fast, just press pause on the video and move along at your pace to stay with us. And there is a good point. When we went to add EZTV to Radarr, the test failed. This time it was successful, so we go ahead and save it and add it. And again, if you have any other preferences, or you have listed more private, semi-private, or public indexers in here, you would add them all. You would go through step by step in order to add those. If you added other types of indexers, as in you're using RSS feeds when you go to choose from one of the categories, then that's when you'd click on those. Like right here, you'd add a torrent RSS feed and use that information instead of pressing the TorsNav link to copy that information. You would use the RSS feed information. So the indexes have been added. Let's add the download client. And the download client for this demo purposes or tutorials, we are using transmission. So again, and we need to jump back to our service control panel, and we need some information from transmission. So from here, we need to have our host name, which you can type it out. I like to use the copy and paste, but sometimes it doesn't work to my benefit. And we also need the port number, and you will need the username and password, which you can retrieve that information right from here, your username, and then you can also click the icon in order to retrieve your password if you happen to forget what it was. Now the directory, once again, we move on back, pointing out that you can get your home directory from the slot information, which is right here. And we want to add that to the directory. And again, on here, we want to add files. And to go ahead and press save. Now, again, this is as far as we need to go through the setups of Sonarr itself. And again, in the comments below for this video, if you wish to explore these other tabs within Sonarr or Radarr, I will definitely do a follow-up video on that, or when we do our live streams, the question and answer period, and to resolve any issues and to discuss setups, we can go through them then. So once you press save on here, move on out. Well, we can exit if we wish, but if I always like to make sure I get rid of these 3. So that being said, as I go ahead and hit system, and I'll hit restart here. If by chance it does not, after restart, remove the 3 the 3 warnings saying that there is no indexers, then what I tend to do is move out and go to the applications and do a full hard restart of the application itself. So under Sonarr, we can go ahead and hit restart, and it will take a few seconds in order to do so. And while we're waiting for that application to restart, we have now configured Radarr and Sonarr in order to fill our criteria for searching for movies and TV series content. We can go ahead and close Jackett. And then in Sonarr, go ahead and press refresh. And it has not. Oh, we lost a connection. Oh, because it is restarting, which it has not given us the full restart because we did the configuration. So let's wait for the restart. If it's taking a little bit of time, then you can go ahead and try to click restart again. But I like when we get little hiccups like this while we're doing a tutorial, because we can walk through any instances like this. So I just had to wait. I was a little impatient. And I clicked refresh, and as you notice that the system warnings are now gone. So that being said, Sonarr is now set up, and we will be moving on to the next section of this tutorial video. Alright, now that we have finished Sonarr, let's move on to transmission. Heading back to our service control panel, move on down to transmission, and if the show information is open, you just go ahead and press connect. If not, just click the show info button. When you go to connect, if it is the first time, you may be asked for your username and password. I have already accessed this one, so it's not asking me again. Setting transmission web interface is pretty quick and pretty simple. Just move on down here to the wrench. We just want to make sure that in the downloading section, the start when added and the append for the names is checked. Confirm that this is your home file structure, which we confirmed again, just like to point out in your slot info. And we want to make sure that anything the transmission downloads for processing goes into the files. Speed, I do not set any speed limits or alternatives. I leave this as is. Peers, the only changes I make in peers is I uncheck the use Plex and the DHT. A lot of trackers do not like those encryption modes for the network. I leave these alone as well. I do want to go back to the torrents because I forgot to mention one main feature is I do not set the stop seeding. The reason I don't is myself, I use some private trackers, and you'll find with some trackers that you may have some content that'll be sitting there and it says seeding, but there is no traffic flow. There's nobody seeding from it. And with private trackers especially, I do not know if some public ones do, that if you leave it there and it is left there for a period of time, which I have quite honestly never determined or found out what it is personally in order to get the credit, but you get credit for it sitting there waiting to be seeded. So normally what I will do is I will, if it is sitting idle and not seeding at all, I'll leave it for 3-4 days max, and then I will delete it off of transmission in the seeding section. So you can go ahead and set this if you wish, corresponding for how many minutes that it is for 3-4 days, or your personal preference. I do set the stop seeding ratio at 2. I set this to reflect what we set in Sonarr for the TV series, and the reason I set it in transmission is Radarr does not have this value to be set in the indexers. So I want to stop a seeding ratio at 2. Again, your choice if you choose to whatever it is. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever you want. The private trackers like to do 1-to-1, public like 1-to-1. I like to give back to the community on that aspect, so I set it to 2-to-1, which again means that for every one content, so every one movie, TV show, or anything that I download, I will leave it seeding in order to be uploaded fully 2 times, so 2-to-1. And just double check the settings in here, And again, use Plex and DHT, that is default checked, uncheck them. Network, and that is transmission. So we are finished setting transmission. We are going to move on to set the Plex media server. Back at our control panel, we can go ahead and go into the Plex media server. If it is not already showing, just hit the show info button and let's connect to our Plex media server. As mentioned at the beginning of this tutorial, we are just going to be finishing with some settings in Plex to have a basic up and running Plex media server. We will go in depth with more settings in future videos, adding more enhancements to the service itself and the functionality in order to give you a full enriched Plex media server experience. So right in here, you can see that we are attached. It has your server name. We are remote locked to it, and we are live with your Plex media server. I like to go into the settings, and in settings right off the bat, if it doesn't have the advanced settings down here, you can go ahead and click Show Advanced. There is not much to change in here unless you want to do that on your own. These are decisions you can make for those. I do recommend keep the send crash reports because it helps Plex further enhance this application. The friendly name, this is the name that you'll see on the list, and if you give access to anybody else to your server, that's what they'll see. So this here, just call the setup demo, and just go ahead and press save changes. Once that's done, I just go back. Now we are ready to add a library. So we can go ahead and click add library. This is based on the applications that we installed. So we're only going to set 2 libraries because those are the 2 applications we put in. As you can see, there are more, and we will get into these again in future videos, tutorial videos coming up. So we did movies. So go ahead and click movies. You can name whatever you want. This is the title that'll show up in your library list. Hit next. Now this is where we're going to browse for your media folder. This will take you to your Ultraseedbox storage, and you will need to remember where your home directory is. So for the setup demo, it is home 18, and within home 18 you have the setup demo. And in here, I do want to point out that you will see files and media. Do not choose the files folder, as you may think this is the folder to go to because of our settings that we did in Sonarr, Radarr, and Transmission. That is what is going to be the base of where the files that are downloaded land first via your transmission or your download client, if you set it to go there. What we want is we want media, and inside media, click movies and add that, and we're going to add the library. Now that add library button has disappeared, so we just slide on over and go to the libraries. We want to add one more because we did do TV shows. And again, browse. And add the library. The only other settings that I like to point out and to show right off the bat is we head back into the category settings and we scroll down to agents. And in agents, what we want to do is we want to be in movies, and we want to go to the movie database. Now, this is the list in which Plex is going to search one by one to get the metadata. So any information, plot summaries, posters, things like that for your content. And I recommend click and hold on the movie database and move it up to the top. And of course, once we are into the agents, we want to click on the movie database. The database is what Plex will use in order to search for and provide the metadata, which is the poster information, plot summaries, TV series information, and episode information for the content that you download. This being said, it is recommended that you click and hold on the movie database and you move it to the top. This will tell Plex Media Server to start with the movie database first and provide you with the meta information. You can also move over to the shows, and the shows, you can click on movie database and it is already up there, so it is already done. So this right now, as it sits, we have a Plex media server that is ready to go. So that being said, let's go ahead and search for something real quick. So we're going to exit to our control panel and let's go to Radarr. So Radarr, let's open Radarr. Now when we are here, again, it is a blank slate as we don't have anything. So let's go ahead and add a movie. So when you click on add movie, you're going to get this search bar. Now this is where you can start typing and results start to fill at the bottom, and you can choose. So we'll go ahead and go to choose a movie. Let's just say E.T. So because there's a lot of things that have E.T., we wanted to get actually E.T. the extraterrestrial. Let's go E dot T. So let's go ahead and search for a movie title. Let's say A Bug's Life is what I want to search for, but just put a Bugs in there. And you can see we have content that is starting to fill here based on the words that we put in to the search. And so let's go ahead and set that we want to download this content of Bug's Life. This is what we're looking for. So in here, the first thing is it's going to ask you to set a path. Now the path, there is no preset, so you got to add the path. And when you go to add the path, you'll have a little pop-up here. It'll say select folder. So it's going to take us to, again, our file structure for our Ultraseedbox. So we're going to find our home directory, which mine is home 18. Others, you'll have home with a different number on there. Go ahead and click in there and you'll see your server name. And once again, this is where you don't click into the media area. You click into the files area. No, I am sorry, that is wrong. You click into the media area. The files area is for transmission, to put any files in there while it's downloading. And then when it's finished, its download, it'll communicate with Sonarr and Radarr to put it in the folder we want it to, which is movies. So go ahead and press OK. This is the one that we want, movies, and press OK. So it'll show up here. Monitor yes, or you can monitor it no, based on if this is a gonna have sequels or a reoccurring or like that. That type of criteria for the movie itself. Your minimum availability, which you can hover over the question mark, which it'll give you the different options, as in announced, consider the movie available for download after it has been announced, you know, on like IMDb sites, the movie database sites, you know, the internet itself, if it's in cinemas, listed in cinemas, or physically on the web, available to watch. This here I like to leave as announced. And profile, now this is where I'm going to mention that we're going to use the profile any. When you're configuring Sonarr and Radarr and we went through the profiles, we deleted the pre-configured profiles. If you did not delete them, they would show up down here, so you'd have a list of all those to choose from. But because we configured the any profile to include and not include the different filters, or the different content based on the filters that we set, we just use the any. You can add this, and then when you add it, you'll have to actually go click into it to search, or here you can add and search for the movie. This here you can ignore it. So we go, I suggest clicking the hourglass, and you can see that it'll start searching. And if you have multiple index, indexers in here, they will show up. So you will see a little box that pops up here that says already exists, which means that it already exists in the database. So you can go ahead and click it if you wish, and it'll show you results. It'll show you like what it has right here, that we've already found it. Something has been in our criteria, which it is Blu-ray 1080p, and there's a little icon here, movie grabbed from which indexer and sent to our download client. You may get several results in here. This is the history, so if you end up clicking on search, it'll give you several results, and this is an unfettered or unfiltered result list that you will get, and you'll have little warnings and little notifications within there, because if it does not suit your filters. Example is you know, little filters in here, it's too large. This file is outside of the range that I have set. You know, so there's all these little things like that, but you can manually override if you decide to do that, if you're having trouble or you wish to get a different version of the content. So with that being said, let's just quickly jump into transmission, because I want to show you. So we'll go to transmission, and as you can see, it is downloading. Unfortunately, it's downloading from a server that is slowly building up in peers, so it may not be complete by the time I want to finish this video. So what I'm going to do right now is, we are set up as in that we have our Sonarr, Radarr, Jackett, and Plex and transmission all set and configured to basically be up and running and do what we want it to do, and we will further enhance those options with further settings and application installs and further tutorial videos. I am going to pause this video right now in order to let this content download, and then when I come back, we can actually go to the Plex and refresh and show you how it shows up on the Plex media server. So please stand by. All right, we are back. So the file has finished. I do want to just click on here and show that it was a 4.81 gig file. The running time is now 9 minutes. That it took about 7 minutes to download. Then it went into the seeding process, so I just wanted to wait in order to show you this, that you can see within transmission that it is now finished downloading and it is seeding, and this is your ratio count. So right now this is actually being uploaded via you, downloaded by another client for someone else or other people in a swarm, and you're giving back to the community. All right, so now that this has been downloaded and it's complete, let's move back to the Plex. Now in the Plex, we just go here. So it's a movie that we downloaded. So clicking on movies, let's go ahead and let's scan for library files. And as you can see, just doing a quick scan of the library files, it has shown that there is a Bug's Life based on the criteria or the settings that we configured in Radarr. This is how you'll see it being named, the title. It is scanning right now to get the full metadata information. So it has found a poster in order to give you this vision right here. You can go ahead and click on it, not into the play area, but click into here. It'll take you into where you get into information about it. And again, when it's pulling information from the movie database, some of the voices in here, these down here have what is the cast in here. And if you have any other movies or content on your Plex media server and you click on them, it will take you to whatever movies or TV shows or whatever that you have on your server itself with them in it. So it actually can take you down the proverbial rabbit hole, and you can keep going to movies if you like that actor. Like if you want to see more of, you know, Julia Louis-Dreyfus or Richard Kind, you know, things like that. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed the setup. I'm hoping it's working for you. Right now, you have a operational Plex media server.